me, Colonel Reb means Ole Miss. It means tradition, pride. It means athletics. It means spirit. Like all those things that you would associate with any mascot at any school on any campus. I mean, like that's what Colonel Reb means to me. He means the Rebels. He means Ole Miss. Know that Colonel Reb was brought here more than 80 years ago, and that's when we were the Rebels, and then the Colonel kind of came in, and they had actually a student dressed up as a colonel on the sidelines and in the games and stuff, and it was actually a young person in the suit. And then they came up with this little drawing type deal, and then I think it was 70, no, back up, it was before that, it was like in the 60s, they had the colonel actually a picture drawn, and that was in the yearbooks and that kind of thing. So the university has been promoting this Ole Miss, the word Ole Miss, and they've been promoting Colonel Reb, and they've been promoting Dixie and all these things for well over 70, 80 years. And they've been for most of the time, I mean, for a long, long, long time. So for the university to kind of come up with that, and then the teams, the football teams being known as the Rebels and that kind of thing, it just really makes you proud of just, it's a history thing. It's a history and it's a tradition, and that's just something that was created by students, and so that's kind of why, that means that to me.
That's what I think about. I don't think about a black bear. I think about, Colonel Reb, being a rebel, coming here, being a rebel. That's what everybody talks about from, ESPN College Game Day. They just did a recent 60 on 60 series, and they referred to Ole Miss as the Rebels. That's what they referred to, our university as. So I think it's a little, disrespectful, definitely, to the people who have been a rebel for so long, from their grandparents to their parents, now to them, to have to come here and witness, a mascot that they really don't approve of. That's kind of what Colonel Reb, signifies.
It means the culture of the school. You can't just take and change the jersey to a black bear, change the mascot to a black bear. It's the culture of the school and its history.
What does Colonel Reb mean to you?
Tradition. First and foremost, definitely means tradition.
Let me back up a little bit. In '97, Pete Boone introduced a more stockier, more muscled up Colonel Reb. People didn't really like that much. They didn't want to change. You can see in '97 they didn't want to change from what the students had created as Colonel Reb. 2003, they said, no more, not on the sidelines. We're not going to be on the sidelines anymore. We're going to be done with that. After that happened, you saw students just an outpouring of people being like, no, why? Why does this happen? The Colonel Reb Foundation stepped up, and they got the money donated, and they went and purchased Colonel 2, which is not actually Colonel Reb that you see on the sidelines from the 80s and 90s and stuff, and even the early 2000s. But this is a different Colonel that was made so that we would still have him. So they go on, and they're there, and they let him in the stadium, and he was in the student section. People were still pumped up. Really wasn't that big of a deal, other than the fact that the university wasn't promoting him on the sidelines anymore. After 2009 to 10, when they went to the Cotton Bowl, said, no more student section at all. They're not going to let him in. They're not going to let him in at all. They wanted to move on. We ended up, we got a thing. We were going to have a new mascot. So they made it evident they were not going to go back to anything else. The deal was on the field mascot. So ended up, people wanted the land shark. They wanted Hotty Toddy, but the bear won, which is ironic. But so the bear wins, and basically what happens is you still got students that are ticked off. They want to know why the bear won. And so the bear wins, and they still like, okay, well, we got a new sideline on the field mascot. Why can't we have the colonel in the stadium? He gets the students pumped up. He represents us. So with telling you that little background story, you have to say that students are still fired up. Look, they removed him 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago. Oh, yeah, 10 years ago, 2003, they removed him altogether. And here we are 10 years later, and he's at every game, home and away. He's in the Grove. He comes to all events. You still can find stuff on the square printed with the colonel on it. You can go to a lot of the shops on the square, and they've got the silhouette of him on there. People don't want to get rid of him. People love him. And the university tries to make it a racial issue, and technically, really, a lot of the students, it's not a
So you still consider yourself a rebel? And Colonel Reb is still your mascot?
I think whether they change it or not, Colonel Reb will still be our mascot, no matter what they call it, whether it's the Black Bear, whether it's Admiral Akbar, or whether it's Colonel Reb again someday.
So you still consider yourself a rebel?
Absolutely.
You're the Colonel as Ole Miss's true mascot.
I mean, yes, of course, because he's truly what we're built on, and truly what our history of our school's built on, not a black bear.
All right. How do you feel about this particular selection of a black bear?
I think it's irrelevant. As long as it's not a rebel, it's wrong.